Okay, for number 1, it says, which scatter plot could have a trend line whose equation is 1/2 x plus 4? Let's draw a trend line through each of these. Okay, so first of all, the y-intercept is a positive 4, and the slope needs to be positive. Okay, so for A and B, the y-intercept isn't 4, and the slopes for both are negative. All right, so this one's a little bit close one here. C and D both have possible 4 y-intercepts, okay? Now the slope here, the key thing is the slope. The slope is 1/2. If I look at D, the slope is a little steeper, okay? It looks like for D, if you draw the trend line, it goes through every point, right? And the scale for the x and the y, the intervals are 1 to 1. Okay, so looks like the slope here is 1. Okay, here the slope is not as steep. Okay, the rise looks like it could be 1. The run looks like it could be 2. It's a less steep of a line. Okay, and 1/2, right? It's more plausible that this one has a slope of 1/2. Although that one's very close, I could see why people would choose D. Okay, but C is the less steep slope. You have the rise should be 1, the run should be 2, meaning the line should be more horizontal. This line is more horizontal. Okay, number 2. This is also a kind of a close one here because I think they're both kind of weak. But number 2, which graph from question 1 has a weak negative correlation? So from question 1, we know it's not C and D. Those are both positive. Both of these, A and B, are both negative. B, if you look at the points, they're more in a straight line. Okay, A, you have points that are kind of straying away from the line a little bit. Okay, so the weaker correlation here would be A, because the points are further away. You can draw a line of best fit, but the points are further away from the trend line. Here we can, especially these points here for B, you could definitely draw a line straight through, almost straight through those points, with these kind of being like outliers. Okay, not really outliers because they do kind of fit the trend. Okay. But these points here make more of a straight line. So the weaker correlation then would be A. Number 3, for the data shown in the scatter plot below, which point is the outlier? Well, the outlier is right here, and the x is 1 and the y is 3, so that'd be option A. Number 4, Marisol graphed a scatter plot of the number of hours she rode her bicycle, which is x. Okay, so hours she rode her bicycles is x. Her bicycle is x, and the distance she traveled is y. Okay, she drew a trend line and calculated its calculation to be y equals 10x plus 4. What is the predicted distance Marisol rode her bicycle if she rode it for 3.5 hours? Okay, so we got 3.5 hours here, and x is hours. So let's use that equation, y equals 10x plus 4, and we're going to put, since x is hours, we're going to put 3.5 in for x. Y equals 10 times 3.5 plus 4. Okay, and you can use your calculator on this one, but 10 times 3.5, right? Just move the decimal over, so that's 30. Okay, 30 plus 35, I mean. 35 plus 4 is 39. There's your y, so 39. Okay. All right, number 5. How many tulips are there according to this table? Let's look here. 14 red tulips, 3 white tulips, so there are 17 tulips in total. All right, so 6, 7, and 8 throws in some vocabulary that you kind of don't need. What is the joint relative frequency? Let's cross out the word joint relative. What's the frequency of red roses? So I told you in class to look for the word of, but the of here, what you're looking for, is the red roses, which there are 8. Okay, so what's the frequency, the overall frequency of red roses? Okay, so you have 8 red roses, and there are 50 flowers in total. Okay, so you're going to do 8 divided by 50 on this one. Okay, so that's 0.16, and that gives you 16%. Okay. Number 7, let's cross out marginal relative frequency. Not vocabulary you need to know. What is the frequency of tulips? Okay, so the frequency overall of all the flowers, okay, of tulips. So there are 50 flowers overall, and there are 17 tulips. Okay, so 17 divided by 50, that's going to give you 0.34, which is 34%. All right, number 8, the conditional relative frequency. So let's cross that out. What is the frequency of tulips that are white? Okay, so so tulips, what's the frequency of tulips? So there's 17 tulips, and of those 17 tulips, we want to find the frequency of the ones that are white. So we got 3 out of 17. We're looking at the tulips. The frequency of tulips, there are 17 of them that are white. There are 3 white tulips of the 17 total. Okay. All right, so 3 divided by 17, I'm just going to do that in my calculator. 3 divided by 17 gives you 0.76, which I'm going to round up to 0.18. 0.176, which I'm going to round up to 0.18. Okay, and 0.18 is 18%. Okay, let's look at the back. The back just tells you to graph. Okay, so you're using this table, and you're going to do the graph for it on here. So we're going to graph each of these when the time on the internet is 10. Time on the internet is X. Right, so there's your X, there's your Y. Time doing homework is 50. So 10 and 50. All right, so the next one, time on the internet as 30. Time doing homework is still 50. Next one is 40-40. Time on the internet X is 50, and then the Y, time doing homework, is 30. Time on the internet X is 70, and then the Y is 30. And then the last one is 90-20. Okay, so there's your scatter plot from that table. Choose the best equation for the trend line. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just quickly draw a trend line here. Okay. All right, looks like my y-intercept is about 60, and the slope should be negative. Okay, so A has a positive slope. We're not going to choose A. D also has a positive slope. Alright, so I'm down to B and C again, and same issue here that we had with number 1 on the front. Both of these have y-intercepts of 60. Both of these have negative slopes, okay? So if you look here, this line is more horizontal, right? So the denominator should be bigger than the numerator, okay? If I had a slope, the slope here, it says would be -1. So that'd be -1/1. For C, right, the slope would be hitting every corner, right? It would be a steeper line, okay? But this is a more horizontal line, right? So you want the one that has the run as being the bigger number. Okay. All right, 11 says, what type of association does the trend line show? Right, it's going down. As the time on the internet increases, the time doing homework decreases. As one increases, the other one decreases. That's a negative correlation. And then the last one, predict the amount of time a student will use the internet if they do homework for 10 minutes. So let's look at the table here. So if they do homework for 10 minutes, so doing homework is y. So if I go to 10 minutes on the y and I go over to the line, it's look like it's going to be past 100. Okay, so I'm going to go with here, I'm going to go with 105. Okay, if you said 100, I guess that, I think it's definitely past 100. Okay, so I'm going to go with the biggest one, 105 minutes on the internet.